Welcome to Grade 1 View, the podcast for future CRNAs by future CRNAs, a partnership between AANA and Beyond the Mask.
Whether you're about to graduate from a nurse anesthesia program, trying to get accepted to nursing school, or you're somewhere in between,
this podcast is a resource and safe space for all things nurse anesthesia.
We're your Season 2 host team. I'm Levi Davis.
I'm Kelsey Muir.
I'm Mackenzie Lane.
And I'm Nicholas Alexander. So grab your Mac or your Miller, turn up your flows, and get ready, because this is Grade 1 View.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Grade 1 View. I'm Levi, joined by my co-host Kelsey. June is Pride Month, and today we're discussing representation, belonging, and well-being within nurse anesthesia.
And today we're joined by Dr. Carlotta Izaguirre, the director, and John Giannitsis, the president of Nurse Anesthesia Pride Foundation, or NAPF, formerly known as GALA, or Gay and Lesbian Anesthetists. And today we're going to talk about their mission, representation in our profession, mental health, inclusive patient care, and why community matters in nurse anesthesia.
We're excited to have you here. Let's just start with introductions. Tell us about yourselves and your involvement with NAPF.
Hi, my name is Carlotta Izaguirre, and I'm director with the Nurse Anesthesiology Pride Foundation, which I became associated with in late 2020, early 2021, when we re-envisioned the org from GALA to NAPF. I was invited by actually one of the faculty at UPenn, and then I got in touch with John and put on an email thread, and I'm still here. I'm still queer.
I love it.
Rest is history.
That's right.
Exactly. And so my name is John Giannitsis. I'm the president of NAPF. So I have been involved with the organization since I was a student back in 2014, 2015, when it was still under the guise of GALA, or the Gay and Lesbian Anesthetists, which was a group that was founded by Sandy and Joy, who are a lesbian couple, and then Tom and Brian, another couple of CRNAs, back in 1995 at one of the annual meetings as a way for people in the LGBTQ community to come together and kind of be there for each other while still being very in the closet and not really seen by many people. In 2016, 2017, they were ready to kind of give up the reins. And so I started helping out then after I graduated. And in 2020, I intended to kind of do a rebrand of the organization and actually create a nonprofit. And COVID happened, so it took a little longer. But in 2021, after a lot of work and blood, sweat, and tears, we applied for 501(c) status and were able to get it. And NAPF has continued to grow in strength and number and community since then. It's been a really wonderful thing to kind of watch kind of unfurl in front of our eyes. We're definitely doing all of the things that we set out to do, in some ways better than we imagined, I think. And so it's been really great to watch that happen.
Nice. I really like that, and hearing the backstory of the whole organization. For our listeners who are not familiar with this organization, what is the Nurse Anesthesiology Pride Foundation?
So NAPF is a 501c3 foundation, as John mentioned, that started as GALA, the Gay and Lesbian Anesthetists, in 1995. And over the last 30 plus years, what we have been doing is leading, mentoring, and inspiring other LGBTQ plus CRNAs, students, whether you're a novice CRNA or an experienced CRNA. What we do is we come together to build community of professional networking. We also do annual fundraisers where we actually fundraise for scholarships for students.
That's amazing. I love that.
Oh, thank you.
Especially
Thank you.
right now, I can tell you as a student, especially with all this money kind of going away with the federal loans, man, that is so important at this point in time.
Yeah. And so we don't just advocate for LGBTQ folks. Obviously, we are also in a lot of allyship relationships, not just with LGBTQ CRNAs that are in leadership, because we have a lot of people that were part of our group, part of GALA or NAPF, who are past presidents, who the AANA is giving awards named after. So we had a lot of endorsements for this year's ANA candidacy for people in leadership. And so we're in a lot of different intersections of community. And so one of the primary things that we do is that we do fundraise scholarship money for students. And one of the biggest things that we were talking about this year with the candidates were, what are things that you envision the ANA doing to try to reverse or pause this bill that's going to put student loan caps on people that are under-resourced from marginalized communities? Because as we know, this is going to impact all of us at some point, either in our career, in our healthcare, or like, as I'm thinking about myself, like as I age, who's going to be able to take care of me?
Right.
You
It's like the
know,
pipeline is like just gonna get
correct.
smaller. Yeah.
So we do a little bit of everything. We love to party, but we also love to party and fundraise. And we also like to network professionally so that we can advocate for one another, because really what we're doing is that we're advocating for our future.
I was super excited to see that there was a Pride Foundation within the AANA and that there was representation for this community, because it is just like every other diverse community. It's not represented well. And so I was super excited to stumble upon you guys' Instagram and see that this was a thing, and you guys are growing. Like you said, it's getting bigger and bigger, and you have your own events at the AANA. And then I do want to go back to what John was talking about when he said like it was kind of like a closeted thing at first for this community. And I saw the term Friends of Dorothy. Can you explain like what that is to our listeners?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, Friends of Dorothy is a euphemism from like the 1960s and 70s that specifically gay men would use to identify one another. You would ask someone, like, are you a friend of Dorothy? And people would be like, okay, hey, gay, So, when we were thinking about different ways that we could reach out to community that is not in a big city like New York City, not California, not even Nashville has a big gay LGBTQ plus community. So who we were thinking of was folks on the margins, people in Arkansas. They have the highest rates of like depression, suicide ideologies, people who feel like they're better off not living because of their LGBTQ status. So we're thinking about all those folks that are living hidden in these communities and how to connect with them. And one of our students who actually graduated this year and is someone that we at NAPF love so much, Andrew Fernandez, brought up to me last year, can we try to do a virtual social? And then our current student now, Zach Missel, said, yeah, virtual social could be great. What if we named it Friends of Dorothy? So, it's kind of like an old school euphemism, and we're doing something that is providing a lot of reach to folks who otherwise may not have it. And even in 2026, I have so many mentees that are like, I'm the only one. I feel pretty isolated. I'm so glad I found you. Can we do other things? Like, can we do, small events in person? I would drive 3 hours to come and meet up with y'all, in a larger city. So we're just trying to fill a need, even though it might be right now a small need in terms of the people that are asking for it. We want it to be available to anyone, including people that are not sure, if you're questioning, if you're not sure, if you think maybe this group would be for you or not, we welcome everyone, as long as you show up correct, like with consent, no judgment, open-minded, you're welcome at our events.
We have talked about, that feeling of isolation on this podcast quite a bit. And it's really weird to be in this position where you start out in this big group, this big cohort, but then, as you kind of branch more into clinicals, you are truly isolated. And especially for folks that may have moved to different states, that is a really big thing, that don't have family, friends, anybody close by. I can't even imagine. I feel very blessed to have folks in my corner that live very close to me, but I can't imagine, like you said, how isolating that feels. So that is a huge, huge thing to be able to provide that. So just that feeling of community.
Especially because like there's schools and programs out there that like move you across the country or move you into different areas of the United States. And you're going from somewhere like New York City where it's diverse, it's a cultural melting pot. And then you get thrown into a southern state where it's not okay and it's not accepting. It's not that they're getting, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, if people are really getting treated bad out loud, like that's crazy, but there's always that undertone in southern states. And I mean, I'm from a southern state, so I know that.
Not even just in the southern states. When I was in school, one of my clinical sites was in northeastern Nevada at, again, a critical access hospital, CRNA only site. It was an amazing learning experience, but it was in a very Mormon centered town. And I drove across the country with my partner at the time. And my partner was actually planning on heading back to New England, but circumstances like worked that he was able to stay with me. And the housing that they provided was in like the local community college dorms, and like there was supposed to be another student that was staying in the apartment with us, and then that all of a sudden changed, and there were like, I remember being in the operating room during some very uncomfortable conversations with the staff and the surgeons that were having about people in the LGBT community and in the local community, and it was a little frightening at times. And in anesthesia, we work in a very isolated thing, right? We work in silos. Like we're often the only provider in our corner in the room, right? And that's fine because that's how we operate, and we do just fine. But yeah, it's important to remember that you're not alone and to use those resources and do reach out and call your friends at the end of the day. And like, even if it's just for a 5 minute, like, I need to cry right now because I just like experienced this like really tough thing and I need somebody else that like can relate to that. Like, pick the phone up, text your friends, text your classmates. It's really easy to get bogged down in the I'm so alone, but like in the connected world that we live in now, it's actually so easy to like also find somebody else that you can connect with, even if just for a few minutes, And I think that like, you would like to think that most people in our profession, if somebody's reaching out to you in crisis, that you're going to like be able to, give them a little bit of time that they need to just decompress and like wrap their minds around what's going on in their lives. So
I don't really think I appreciated the mental toughness it takes to get through this type of program. I thought I was a pretty mentally tough person, and this truly has challenged me to no end. And I foresee it will continue to challenge me. So I can only imagine the weight of, like you were just saying, that whole experience, John. I can't imagine feeling, the way I feel on top of having experiences like that. So it's a lot to take in.
I think as a student or somebody that wants to get into anesthesia, it's really important to remember that you need to trust the process. Like, that's the best piece of advice that I can ever give to anybody entering our profession. Like, the reason that school is 3 years and it's grueling is because like you need that much time and stuff to get through it, to be the provider on the other end of it that you're going to be. But also like, don't get caught up in the weeds. You need to like trust the process and not get bogged down in all of the minutia, and like, it's going to work. 60,000 people in the country that do anesthesia every day like got through the process, right? And like, yes, it's a little bit different for everybody, but fundamentally like programs are pretty similar. So
yeah,
You're gonna make it. You're gonna make it, no matter where you are.
just keep swimming.
Yeah,
exactly.
Just keep swimming and have a buddy.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think is also another top thing. Like, like John was saying, like, have a couple of people, right now with my mentees, one of the things that I'm constantly asking is like, what does your social life look like? When you take a break, who are you taking that break with? Make sure you invest in your relationships, and not just like intimate relationships, like lovers. They're important, definitely, but invest in other kinds of relationships too. Even if it's someone that you just walk your dog with, or that you just shoot the shit with at a cafe. Like, they don't have to be that deep, but they do have to be separate from school.
Have to fill your cup.
Yeah, fill your cup.
Exactly.
And also
Resource yourself.
call you out. And if they're seeing changes with you and they're saying like, hey, you're not acting the same way, you're not, what's going on? Like, they're going to be the person that's going to catch those subtle changes that people see you on the day-to-day in the OR, in the classroom. They're not going to check that. But somebody that hasn't seen you in a couple of weeks because you haven't been doing your daily walks or every other day meetups, and they're going to see that huge shift in you. And I feel like that's super important for all of your well-being and connection.
Exactly. Yeah, mental health is important for everyone.
Everybody needs a therapist.
Everybody needs a
Amen.
therapist. Everybody, like, look
Amen.
at where we're living right now. Everybody needs a mental health check-in.
That is true. Well, both of you kind of mentioned or alluded to this, but we just kind of want to talk about or bridge into representation in nurse anesthesia in our profession. So, I guess just to begin, what does representation mean to both of you personally?
I mean, I think representation to me means being the kind of healthcare provider that you would want taking care of you, right? Like putting out there into the world what you want to get back, right? But also, I think that like we as a profession need to continue to diversify, and like it makes a huge difference when the person that's laying there scared out of their mind about to have surgery can look up at you and relate to you, right? I also have at times given care in circumstances or situations or clinics that like the majority of people don't speak English, and like just being able to communicate with a patient, like the care is different no matter what. Like there was a clinic that a lot of the patients spoke Cantonese, and I don't speak Cantonese. There were plenty of nurses there that did, but like fundamentally the care that I'm giving those patients is not the same as a patient that I can speak English with and communicate and ask all of the questions in the right way to elicit the response that I'm looking for. And so to me, that's what representation means. I really do firmly believe that as healthcare providers, we need to continue to bring people into the fold that represent all of the communities that we care for. I mean, you look at maternal child health, and like the fact that persons of color still experience way more morbidity and mortality around having a baby is mind blowing, right? And it comes from systemic racism and just that underlying like unintentional thought that this person is not like me, and for whatever reason I'm not going to care for them the same way as if they were, right?
Yeah, exactly.
For me, representation, like John was saying, it's not always a mirror. We're not always going to be a mirror for folks, but when we are, like, it's really important that we show up like the health equity providers that we should be. We're not going to be able to take care of in those moments where we are doing our pre-op, our anesthetic and dropping off in PACU. We're not going to be able to do a lot for the years of systemic racism, for the years of inequity that people face at all the intersections of their lives. But there are lots of things that we could do to make a person feel safe and cared for, and also create safety in the OR. So also back to what John was saying about his clinical site. Just because I live in New York City doesn't mean that I haven't had micro and macroaggressions against me and my person. I live in a queer body. I live in a fat body. I live in a brown body. I also live in a loud body because I don't let my drapes cover my face all the time. I bring the drapes down too, and I look people in the eye and I challenge them.
Love that.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah. I mean, you really do have to like show up, because sometimes
But as a student, it's real hard to do that, right?
Of course. But once you're a CRNA,
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Totally different. If I was in that OR today, I would not.
Yes.
Stand
Thank you for that clarifying statement, because absolutely, when I was a student, I definitely had to keep my mouth shut a lot. Even when an MD put his hands on my body around my throat while my clinical coordinator was standing next to me, looked at this happen and looked back down at his phone.
That's absolutely
I
disgusting.
couldn't say anything. But once you're a CRNA, the tables turn, things change. You learn to advocate for yourself and your patient, so like one of the beautiful things that we are able to do is advocate safety. And also, like, if you're in a bariatric case and they're talking fat phobic stuff, you call it out as best you can, because of course you're stuck there the whole day.
Or if a patient gets misgendered or their pronouns aren't correct, like it's a small act like that of like,
right.
Hey, by the way, just a reminder, you don't have to be nasty about it. There's a way to go about it to correct people and make them feel like, oh, thank you for the reminder. Or, I think that it's real easy to get caught up in the politics of what our country is what's happening in our country right now. But like, it's really easy to like get back to the human side of things too, in like a very non-confrontational way.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And there, most EMRs now have a pronoun section. have a preferred name. There are lots of ways that we can advocate, and also model the behavior, model the things that we would want for ourselves. What can I call you? Sometimes pronouns, you just call the person by their name. Instead of saying pregnancy test for assigned female at birth person, a person with a uterus, like there are small ways that, with repetition become part of your practice. And so when you're not exactly that mirror for someone, there are different ways that you could represent for, the LGBTQ community and all other communities. Making sure people have an interpreter is also really important. And every hospital system or healthcare system has access to that.
I think it really comes down to like basic nursing too, I think at the end of the day, like
Yes.
we all took classes on cultural competence, and this is like nursing 101, and it still rings true even when you get this advanced degree. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Always learning. Yeah. And I feel like that's the big thing with the allies. It's always learning. It's like John was saying, if I were to say something, or if somebody were to say something about somebody that is gay, that is like off, that I wouldn't think is off, like John saying like, hey, like that doesn't sound right. Like next time, like maybe, and you should be willing to accept that and gain that competence, like lose the ignorance and gain competence. And I feel like we did learn that in basic nursing. Just be aware. That's it. And just be able to take that feedback and learn from it, because we've all grown up and we've all gone to school and we've all gone to places all the way across the country with all these different cultures and communities that some people just haven't had those experiences yet, and they don't know things that are wrong. It's just your ability to take that in and be aware of it I feel like that's the step to being a true ally in any diverse community.
And it's okay to make a mistake too.
Exactly. And it's the response at the other end of it that matters, right? It's not that you made the misstep, it's the how did you handle the misstep? Or how do you repair one of those situations? I mean, I have misgendered patients before. None of us are perfect. Like none of us are
Yeah.
infallible.
Same. Me too.
It's pointing it out and then moving forward with it, and also not making a big deal of it either, because like if you make too much of a big deal of it, like then you're going to make it weird. Yeah, exactly.
Don't make it weird.
Don't make it weird.
Don't make it weird. But like,
be weird, but don't make it weird.
We're like always weird. Like,
yeah.
Honestly, I pretty much make every situation slightly
Just
weird, but
awkward,
anyway.
weird. Yeah, same.
So
I'm gonna toot my own horn here, because we were talking about representation and like safety. And today, actually, I'm doing my pediatric rotation, and there was a fostered adopted child that we were taking in and for surgery, and his parents were there, and they were a lesbian couple that had fostered and adopted them. And you could tell that the moms were worried. We're going through the whole pre-op thing, and then as we're rolling out, I'm like, okay, mom, kisses, hugs, high fives. We're gonna get going and take him. She saw my shoelaces, which I have for pride. They're rainbow. Yes. And she looked at me and she said, that's the exact sign that I needed to make me feel better. And like, that just made me feel good. Like it made me feel good. So yeah, I'm tooting my own horn because I felt like so good about myself.
But it's little things like that. It's little things like my badge pull is our logo. And several times patients or other people on the surgical team have been like, oh, what is NAPF? Or like part of our logo, there is a little bit of a pride, like progressive rainbow in there. So like you can look at that and know that like I'm a safe person for you. Like you know what I mean? And like that's what it's about, right? It's about creating a safe space for everybody. And sure, I'm sure there are people on the spectrum that would look at that and feel unsafe. And that's unfortunate, right? But also like you need to make the safest space for the most marginalized people in the room. Those are our trans brothers and sisters, right? Like they are constantly under fire.
Our trans siblings.
Their rights are being taken away. Their documentation is changing, like all of those things. And like, to me, that's what advocacy is about. And like, that's really what Pride is all about, is it's for advocating for the most marginalized people in our society. And right now it is absolutely the trans community.
Well, I think that also kind of like leads us, and we've kind of talked about mental health being like, I think really the undertone of almost this conversation. So how do you feel that community can really make a meaningful impact on someone's well-being? What would you guys say to that?
I mean, even what we were talking about earlier, right? Like being in the OR, having a really crappy day as a student or as a CRNA, like we still have crappy days. Like, and knowing that like there is someone or some entity or some resource that you can reach out to, when nationally, like the suicide hotline went down, like the Trevor Project stepped in and was like, hey, we're here and we can fulfill most of what this other thing was doing, right? And it's maybe people haven't heard of the Trevor Project, but it's organizations like that that like have stepped in and filled the void for some of these big things that have gone away. And I think when you like talk about something like the butterfly effect, right? Case in point, I'm mentoring a high school student up in that little community of Weaverville, California, where I talked about earlier that I do some critical access anesthesia. And this was a kid that I met at a coffee shop in the middle of the week. I just assumed he was like, had like graduated high school and was like applying to colleges. Come to find out, he's like excelled at high school and is basically doing high school like distance learning. We got to talking. He's like, why are you in town? I haven't seen you before. I'm like, oh, I'm an anesthesia provider covering the hospital this week. He's like, oh my God, that's what I want to do. He just got into a nursing program down in LA as a high school student, which is unheard of in California. Like this kid's gonna he's gonna go places. He has the drive. But it's things like that. Like you never think that I'm gonna walk into this coffee shop and I'm gonna have on the other end of this a couple years later have this mentor mentee relationship that like never in a million years would I thought that I had, right? And it's about keeping an open mind and like putting yourself out there to make those connections. Cause like if you don't put yourself out there, you can't be an advocate, right? In putting yourself out there, you're going to make those connections and you're going to make it safe for somebody that you had no intention of doing, right?
Yeah. Carlotta, what would you say in terms of like community and impact on mental well-being?
I mean, it was a couple of years ago when there was a report that came out that social isolation was starting to supersede the cause of death over like CAD, any kind of heart-related diseases. And then during the lockdown and quarantine, I think we saw, a lot of people who were really struggling, especially people that had to work from home, or had to stay home. So I think that the social isolation that could come from having an identity that you think is not accepted by the people that you're living with, the people that you're surrounded with in a community, or that you don't feel safe disclosing to anyone in your immediate circle is really serious. I mean, there are a lot of LGBTQ plus community folks who feel that, again, they're better off not being alive. And so I think that community resources, especially interestingly, post COVID quarantine, because it's changed, and now we have a lot of Zoom hangouts. Like I remember having a lot of Zoom hangouts, even though I personally wasn't quarantined because I was already working as a CRNA, that have really changed the game of how you are able to connect. A lot of folks either don't feel safe going in person or it's not accessible. So I think that we create communities in a lot of different ways on social media, finding a support group that is accessible to you financially, and also whether through video or in person. And also, we haven't talked yet about our elders. Like a lot of elders, if they had a partner that has passed away, build their lives around this one person. That's true in a lot of heteronormative relationships that I know of as people are aging, and then their person passes away, and there's a lot of social isolation there. So I think that the importance of community throughout our lifetime can't be understated. And one of the things that I really love about what NAPF is doing right now is trying to have intergenerational community. So at the Friends of Dorothy, the first virtual that we had, we were a small group, but it was so diverse in terms of age, experience, and connection. Some folks had just heard about NAPF, and some folks had been part of Gala since like 2010, maybe. So some folks received some sort of financial support from Gala as a student to either attend mid-year or a dinner, and are now sponsoring the next generation of CRNAs. So I think it's really beautiful to have intergenerational community. And that is especially important for everyone, and a special focus, I think, for me in my own queer LGBTQ plus community. Like we always emphasize, giving our elders their flowers, and also having teaching the young and including them and bringing them in and supporting.
I love that.
Yeah, me too. It's awesome to hear that there's resources out there for everyone, and that you guys are providing that for this community. Is there like specific scholarships that like listeners are we mainly focus on residents, but what are those specific scholarships that you guys have? I heard you say annual.
So since Gala, actually, as a group, Gala was donating money to the ANA Foundation's scholarship fund, and there would be 1 to 3 scholarships in the name of Gala. The great thing about the foundation is that there's like over 100 scholarships that student nurse anesthetists can apply for, and it is one application. Students can apply for several of the scholarships within that umbrella. So each scholarship has its own criteria. Some of the criteria are that you have to go to a certain school or you live in a certain state. Some of them are culturally specific. You have to be in the Latinx community or Filipina, or so any of those. So for the LGBTQ students under Gala, there was no like specific stipulations that patient or students had to be within the LGBT community. But when about 2 years before NAPF went into inception, the last 2 years of Gala, we did change the scholarship criteria to say that students that were applying for that scholarship had to be in the LGBT community. And since then, since the inception of Gala, we have raised and given anywhere from 4 to 5 scholarships a year, around like $3,000. So the last 3 years, we've given 5 $3,000 scholarships, so a total of $15,000 each year. And last year, we were recognized by the foundation into their Gertrude Fife Society as an organization that has given X amount of money in the last several years. And it definitely turned some heads in the room at the luncheon that was announced at. And so this year in 2026, we are again have awarded 5 $3,000 scholarships.
That's awesome.
And the great thing about the foundation scholarships is the money goes right to the student. The check comes from the foundation and goes to the student. It doesn't go to your school. So you can use it for rent or food or books or whatever you need to use it for. There's no stipulation on what that money gets spent on at all.
Or that mental health gateway.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Literally,
Vacation.
literally anything. Yeah, I actually had gotten a foundation scholarship when I was a student, not the Gala scholarship, but one of the New England scholarships. And that money went a long way because it was like the check came to me in my name. I didn't have to it wasn't taxed. Didn't like go to the school to pay for any of the tuition. It was really a welcomed thing at the time. So yeah, it's pretty cool to see how much I would say the last couple of years of Gala, we were donating like around like $9,000, and we've really stepped up in the last few years. And
that's cool.
Because
anything helps.
A lot of money.
Yeah, as exactly. Me and Kelsey are ending out our 3rd year here, where anything helps.
Oh, congrats!
It's impactful for sure.
Yes. Yeah. We say ending, but it's like December. It's June right now. So
it's close enough. It's close enough.
6 months. You're almost there. I did want to say something else about the scholarship, which is the scholarship is, like John said, all the requirements, the criteria, the application is through the ANA Foundation. They generally open it up in January, and usually the beginning of March, it closes. So you really only have a month to get it together and submit. We always announce when the scholarships open, and we go hard in publicizing folks to apply because the window is so short. So opens in January, usually closes in March, generally in the beginning, and then awarded in August during the ANA Congress.
Nice. They're actually technically awarded in June. That's when the announcement happens.
Okay.
The end of May. The recipients for 2026 were just published. The nice thing about the foundation too is that the foundation administrates it all. So there's a level of like separation between the money that we're raising and the scholarships that we're giving out, which helps the org stay kind of neutral with any of that. So students are like, oh, how do I like guarantee that I can get a scholarship? And I'm like, it's actually out of my hands, which again, I prefer. There's no playing favorites. I think that there's something to be said for the anonymity of that. It's kind of like a peer review journal, right? Like you submit your article and the journal reviews it, but like they send it to somebody that it's completely blinded to and they don't know who they're reading about or who the authors are. And I think, that is important within our profession. So
yeah, I agree. Well, that's awesome. Thank you guys for all of the work that you do for helping us residents out, especially
Our
those with
pleasure.
the marginalized communities and stuff like that. We wanted to start looking forward. So, as we look to the future of nurse anesthesia, what goals does NAF have moving forward?
Yeah, so we actually a couple years ago came up with like a 3-year plan. And some of the things in that plan that we wanted to start doing were things like virtual socials or going to other meetings. Historically, we had just had this fundraising event at the national meeting, which has been like a kind of like a meet and mixer since 2019. Prior to that, it was a dinner where was again kind of it was hard to get an invite. You had to know somebody in the LGBT community that was going to it, especially if you were a student. And now it's like much more publicized and kind of open to all. So that's one thing that we've managed to do.
Okay. Do
Another
you feel
thing
like
that
that was because of like safety reasons? Like they wanted to have it kind of
I,
like a
that was
closed
definitely a big part
community?
of it. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
And so historically, it had just been the national meeting in August or September that we would have an event at. The last several years, we've had an impromptu event, like a happy hour at the mid-year assembly, which that event is gaining traction. In the fall, we had the Western states had a Western conference in Las Vegas, and we actually NAF had a table at their exhibit hall, so that helped us get our name out there some. And we again did like a little impromptu kind of meetup at that gathering. So, looking to the future, we're trying to find more ways to connect with more people in person and virtually. Our goal is also to like kind of have some sort of educational series when it comes to like caring for people in the LGBT community, specifically the trans members of our community, specifically because they are the ones, again, that are the most marginalized, that deal with healthcare stigma the most and access to care and those kind of things.
I would love to see that at Congress.
Nelson Aquino, who's a CRNA, Dr. Nelson Aquino, he works at Children's Hospital Boston. He's part of the faculty at Northeastern. He has done a lot of research in that realm. And so we're looking to partner with him to get some things up there going forward. But there actually is a fair amount of research that he's published specifically around caring for trans patients and trans teenagers specifically, because again, he works at Boston Children's. So he is doing some phenomenal work. So
I would love to see more education on that. Like Kelsey was saying, like I feel like it was kind of like just like a PowerPoint slide when we were talking about special populations. It was like boom, and it was gone. So it's like okay,
Yeah.
but I've learned a lot even in this conversation here about caring for the community's patients.
And like you were saying, with the population right now, with their mental health, I feel like just like hanging in the balance, like that's such an important topic. I think when we can be an ally in that regard, can be that one person that's kind of like that lifeline. So I think that would be a really awesome, awesome topic to see at Congress. Just saying, anybody that's listening.
Yeah, and so for annual Congress, I found out last year that in September, following the Congress, is usually when they start to take poster presentations and things that you want to submit for presentation. So there are a couple of things in the works, which is I have a student right now. His project, his DMP project, was on increasing the cultural competency for caring for trans and gender nonconforming and gender diverse populations, specifically for nurse anesthesia residents. So they did a pre-test, they had a presentation, they did a post-test, and he covers everything from hormone therapy, airway considerations, upper and lower surgeries, in addition to introducing culturally competent conversations and how to create safety for your patient. And I also wanted to say again, the way that Levi is flagging with his, because we're going to learn all the gay terms
Flagging.
now.
Yeah, I like it.
The way Levi is flagging rainbow, that's ally work that can be done too. One of the big things that we have been talking about within our organization is that ally is a verb. Ally is work, So if you're an LGBTQ ally, that's not just going to the gay bars, That's just not having queer friends. It's not just showing up in that way. It's showing up in the more challenging ways too. When you challenge your friends, your family, the way they talk about folks, the way they talk to folks, the way they misgender.
even something like when you vote, like you can be verbally an ally, but you vote for policies or politicians that are not. And a lot of us deal with that within our family, our nuclear families,
And our
you know,
CRNA family too.
yeah. You can say that you love me, but you're voting, you're
Against me.
voting with your vote in these ways that directly vote against me. So how,
You're
how do
hurting.
how do
Yeah.
you rectify that dichotomy, right? Like that's put your
Yeah.
money where your mouth is. Like don't
Well,
you got to
put
be
the
about it.
money in
Don't
our LGBTQ student
well,
scholarship
that too.
mouths.
Yeah. You gotta not
But yes.
just, you gotta be about it, not just say it, right?
Word.
Like,
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like really
actions
be
always
about it.
speak, yeah.
Yeah,
Actions always
ally
speak
is a
louder
verb.
than words.
Correct.
So
Ally is a verb. And so while we're doing like a lot of advocacy and visibility to grow the organization, we are looking at professional development. I just had a conversation with the DEI director of NISANA, and how can we create a CE program where it's like, it's an adjunct to what you receive in school, but it could be for lifelong learners. It could also be for students, right? But also for CRNAs already in practice. So we're trying to like develop and strengthen a lot of the relationships that we already have. But now that we're in a different phase in our org, as we're entering our 6th year, which is really cool. We're
congratulations.
looking, yeah, thank you. Our 6th year as NAF and our 31st year just being in gay and lesbian LGBTQ plus, I'm saying gay and lesbian anesthetist, and
Yeah.
now, the
Gala.
re-envision community. So
I think that's
we're
actually another
looking at
important
different.
point to make too. So the reason why we rebranded is because we wanted to be more inclusive. Like, yes, gay and lesbian anesthetists were part of the LGBT community, but like it also was not a very inviting term from my standpoint anyways. And I
Or
think that,
mine.
rebranding us as the Nurse Anesthesiology Pride Foundation is much more inclusive of everybody in the community and not just like naming out a couple of things.
Potential binary,
Yeah.
Well, it's
we
just
want
like
it to be
how
more inclusive.
LGBTQ plus, because that's how things have kind of continued to expand to include that whole
Yeah.
domain.
And
Well,
we've always existed in this, in
In the
this very
domain. Yeah,
broad,
exactly.
diverse, trans folks have always been here, questioning folks have always been here, asexual folks have always been here. But, we're making sure that everybody is included when we talk about who we are and who we want to come to us and how we want to be represented in CRNA community. So everybody across the LGBTQ plus AI spectrum, and allies that are, active allies are more than welcome always.
And I think it was important what you said earlier, Carlota, too, about if you're questioning, like, there's nothing wrong with that either. Like, come find out.
Yeah, it's like a speakeasy Friends of Dorothy virtual
Yeah.
meeting. Like I
We're
like
a
it.
safe
I like it.
space.
It's kind of like sexy in a way. Like Friends of Dorothy, come. So we here on Grade One View like to do rapid fire questions with our guests. We think it's hilarious and it's fun. So we're just going to start. Me and Kelsey are going to take turns answering off a list of questions that we made for you guys. Some anesthesia, some pride, some, I don't know, personal questions maybe, just to get to know you guys better really quick. So I like to do my little sound. Bow, 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 bow. It's time for rapid fire questions. I'll go first. John, what is your favorite anesthetic agent?
Ketamine, 100%.
Ketamine.
I think it's one of the most diverse drugs that we can use. And I think that as I've grown as a practitioner, like there's a lot more situations that I use it in that I never would have thought that was. And the benefits on the other end of it of like mental health. Yeah.
Microdosing.
The ketamine
Yeah, like
clinic.
microdosing, like that people get from just one dose of ketamine or a dose of ketamine within their anesthetic, like also is like, I think is a topic that a student could take on and potentially run with it as a project. Because I think that like there are the benefits of that are not necessarily totally understood.
Okay. Carlotta, what's your favorite anesthetic agent?
I also love me some ketamine.
Perfect.
easy enough. All right. Well, this one should be, I feel like you're just going to like spit it out right away. Mac or Miller?
Mac.
Okay, so John, you're off the episode now. We're just gonna talk to Carlotta.
I'll tell you what, I never got comfortable with the Miller, and I never have trouble intubating people. Like it's just not.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. I guess
That's
Kelsey's
fair.
a Mac the way that she is looking.
No, I actually, I feel like I float back and forth. I try to use both.
Little diverse. There we
A
go.
little diverse. Exactly. Keep it
Uh,
spicy.
One word that describes pride.
Advocacy would be the word that I come with.
Love that.
Oof, one word is hard, but I would say rebellious.
Love
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, the first Pride was all right. So
Yeah.
So this one is a little different. So run with it here, though. If you could choose an unofficial anesthesia pride mascot, what anesthetic agent would it be and why? I think we may already know the answer, but we'll see what you have to say.
go for
You
it.
know, I just went to a New York Liberty game and I literally go for Ellie the elephant. And I would love to see Ellie do something with ketamine as,
There it is.
you
I
know,
love it.
with ketamine as her inspo. So,
Love that.
I put my answer here because I wanted to say, I said ketamine. So I'm in agreement with you. Ketamine, because it doesn't care about labels, doesn't fit neatly into a single category, and somehow keeps reinventing itself while remaining iconic.
she's iconic.
So the other drug that I would say is like also on that line is Precedex.
Okay. I like it. Calming, soothing alpha 2.
You get some pain control from it.
There you go.
Strokes
Epidurals
all the
work
right
better with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true.
I like it. Okay. Most underrated anesthesia skill.
I would say talking to people.
I was just going to say, like,
Okay.
meeting somebody in pre-op and getting them to trust you in 5 minutes that you're not going to kill them.
A very
That's
good
so
one.
true.
Telling me what they're really doing out in the streets, you know, and
Oh,
feeling
yeah.
safe doing it.
Yeah.
I don't care. Let me live vicariously.
You used meth
but
last
I
night?
want-
That's fine. I just need to know.
I just need to know.
It's going to change
Tell
some
me all
things.
You might not have surgery today, but tomorrow, maybe.
Right, exactly. I think talking to people, lost art.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we're going to just keep it. This is going to be the last one. Favorite part of annual Congress?
Oh, our event.
Our
obviously.
party, obviously.
Yeah, 1,000%.
That is exactly what we were hoping you would say.
Yes.
So
100%.
this is the plug right now. If you could just quickly tell everybody what is going on at Annual Congress and what event everybody needs to attend.
Yeah, so this year at Annual Congress on Sunday, August 23rd, we will be hosting our annual mixer fundraising event at the Dorchester Brewing Company, which is an LGBTQ-owned brewing company in Boston, Massachusetts. Dorchester is part of Boston, essentially. It's one of the neighborhoods of. And it is from 6 to 9. Everybody is welcome. Link to tickets can be found on our website, which is www.crnapride.com. And yeah, come have fun with us.
We will post that link in our episode
The show notes. Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
I already bought my
Yeah.
ticket. I will be there.
Well, we just want to say a huge thank you to you both from the bottom of our hearts for joining us and sharing your experiences, you know, your perspectives and the work that you're doing to support our profession and those a part of the LGBTQ community. So we hope today's conversation highlighted that representation, wellness, and inclusivity are all connected. And when people feel supported and valued, everyone benefits, including our patients.
Yes. Thank you both, Carlotta and John, for joining us today.
Yeah, and thank you guys for having us to amplify our voice, because like that's also super important.
Yeah.
The more ways that we can do that, the more people we can reach, and the safer our profession can become overall. So
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And if you'd like to learn more about NAPF, get involved, or support their mission, be sure to check out the organization and the resources that they provide. Check them out on their Instagram at CRNA Pride Foundation. And we talked about Boston. Make sure you're buying your tickets. Come out and support NAF. It sounds like it's going to be a great time. I'm super excited to be there. And as always, we love to hear from our listeners. So send us your questions, topic ideas, or suggestions for future episodes.
And make sure you're following Grade One View on Instagram at Grade One View Podcast, and subscribe to Beyond the Mask wherever you get your podcasts to catch all of the Grade One View episodes.
Thanks for listening. And remember, every patient deserves exceptional care, and every provider deserves a place where they can thrive. The future of nurse anesthesia is built when we show up for one another, lift each other up, and leave the profession better than we found it. See you next
time.
See you next time on Grade One.
Grade One View.
We're here. We're queer. Come find us.
There we go.
thank you guys.
Yeah,
Thank
happy
you.
Pride. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.